Alright, so how many of you guys have ever just sat in class and just like looked at that one kid and been like, why are you here? Like, how did you get into Cal Poly? Anyone? I do that like all the time. Alright. And then how many of you guys have friends back home who are like definitely smart enough to be going to college, but they can't because of like money issues or just family issues? Yeah. So I think that it's undeniable that there are issues within the American education system, particularly within higher education, and its unavailability to all Americans. Just over 100 years ago, the wealthiest young adults would pay anywhere from like $120 to $150 a year for tuition at a top-tier private university. And nowadays, that'll cost $40,000 to $60,000 for a similarly prestigious university, according to Jay Thielen's 2015 article in Society. This insane jump in price has made college nearly impossible for the lower class to attend, and even the middle class is forced to take out massive student loans just in order to afford to go to college. In a 2014 study by American Student Assistance, it was found that 71% of graduates from all four-year institutions in the United States graduated with federal loans. And the average loan was about $25,000. So, but you can see up here the 0.6%. That seems really small, that has over $200,000 in loans. But that's actually about 225,000 students who are graduating with like super crippling debt. That's ridiculous. So within this, it was discovered in a study by S. Baum called College on Credit for the Journal of Student Financial Aid that student debt levels of over $30,000 were far more prevalent among African American recipients of bachelor's degrees than any other race. So high tuition costs are not only putting lower income families at a disadvantage, but they're also continuing a cycle of racial inequality in education. Aspiring students must make the decision. Should they be buried in student loans, or should they settle for an education that's far beneath them? The problem is eliminating diversity on college campuses, and with each passing year, the gap between the upper educated class and the lower, less educated class grows wider and wider. There are multiple political stances that you can take on this, but I'm going to describe two of the more extreme and more popular stances, the progressive and the conservative stance. So the progression of socialized education exists as one of the cures of the upper education system, and it's backed by parents, students, and even President Obama in a 2011 Forbes article by Janet Novak. R.R. Reno's 2015 article, While We're At It, summarizes some of the opinions of the more socialist answer to education equality. First, promote affirmative action based on class rather than race or ethnicity. Second, adjust SAT scores according to socioeconomic factors. Third, eliminate tuition for higher education. And fourth, increase and equalize funding of primary and secondary education in order to equalize outcomes. All of these answers are rooted in an equal opportunity for all. On the other end of the spectrum, the conservative approach to equal education is focused on similar goals, but they strategize very differently. In G. Earhart's 2014 article, Academic Conservatives and the Future of Higher Education, he discusses how a college education doesn't necessarily make people more educated than those without one, but it has become a necessary ticket into the upper echelons of American society. Glenn Reynolds even goes as far to say in his book, The Higher Education Bubble, that college education is a status marker for the educated caste. Despite often coming across differently, the conservative standing acknowledges the issues within the upper education system, just as the progressive view does. The difference appears within their approach to fixing the issues. While the progressive believes that universal access would create equality, the conservative believes that this might make the situation worse. Their argument, as said by Anya Kamenetz in her book DIYU, published in 2000, is that before the majority of people attended college, say 50 years ago, it was far easier for uneducated young adults to find success in the business world. Going back to Earhart's article, he states that pushing students into further academia when their talents lie elsewhere doesn't actually empower them, but it actually kind of punishes them. What needs to change in society, according to the conservative viewpoint, is that college should stop being a universal measuring stick because it privileges those who are good at academia, which is generally students that come from wealthier families. So the conservative view is that less students should go to university and instead learn a trade or seek other opportunities that may be a better fit to further their education. If this happens, then college prices should go down because of a lower demand. Personally, I think that the answer to the education split in America lies within some kind of collaboration between the two political views. Because when the political views are stripped away, all that they want is for America's youth just to find success. So the first thing that I think needs to change is primary and secondary education, elementary, middle, and high school. Policies like the No Child Left Behind policy prioritize closing achievement gaps and bringing better teachers to underprivileged schools by increasing funding, according to F.M. Hess's 2009 policy review, Wrong Turn on School Reform. But unfortunately, according to Senator Edward Kennedy, the federal government has failed to provide the resources that states and school districts need to improve struggling schools. So policies like the No Child Left Behind policy need to be reevaluated. Next, the stigma within high school education needs to stop, assuming that kids who are smart are the ones who go to college and the ones who are dumb are the ones that aren't going to college. Higher education needs to be redefined to be more inclusive, as it was before the increased importance of a college education. For those who do not find their niche within the world of academia, alternative options need to be explored or even encouraged, because every student is smart in their own way, and they deserve to have their gifts cultivated accordingly. For example, learning a trade is an inexpensive, profitable path to choose, and fewer students choose this path each year, which means that job opportunities are wide open, according to M. Holland's 2016 article in Sociology of Education. For those who excel in school, whether rich or poor, continuing their education should be a viable opportunity, because college should be a place that's characterized by students who are academically smart, not characterized by students who are just born into wealth. For this reason, colleges need to adjust their tuition to be more to accommodate the lower class, as well as students who are forced to pay for their own education, because intelligence should exceed the boundaries of wealth. In the Declaration of Independence, the founding fathers set up a government protecting our right to the pursuit of happiness, which was later dubbed the American Dream. They state that all Americans deserve an equal opportunity at the American Dream, as all Americans are created equally. These statutes are not being exemplified in today's education system, and I believe all it takes to change this is a shift in priorities. We need to prioritize the intelligence of each student over their wealth. We need to prioritize equal education for all students, because equal education results in equal opportunities. And finally, we need to prioritize the individual gifts of each student so that they can be welcomed into an industry that best fits their talents. If these become the priorities of you, the voters, and of the American education system, then no students will be stuck beneath a social barrier far beneath their potential. But instead, they will have the world at their fingertips, enabled and protected by their country to pursue their American